In this video, we're going to spin up the DigitalOcean VPS that we've been talking about pretty much for a while in this series so far. And then we're going to connect into it and make sure that all of its packages are up to date. And then in future videos, we're going to go ahead and lock everything down and make sure that it's as secure as, well, we can generally make it in a quick way. So here I am logged into DigitalOcean here. And what I want to do is I want to come over to these droplet section, and this is where we're going to create our first droplet here. Now there are command lines for everything here. There is a the API that you can hit, sort of like set up your droplets automatically for you. But for the most part, if we're just doing these as one-offs and we don't really need to do that often, then just using the graphics tool is just fine. So I am going to choose Ubuntu version 20. It's the long-term support version for Ubuntu right now. There are obviously many different operating systems that we can choose from. However, for this tutorial, we're going to be using Ubuntu. The other thing is we're doing the basic plan here. And something that I've noticed is it actually recommends a very expensive plan with this, which is we need to change that. So we're going to switch over, because the cheapest one here is $6 a month, which is pretty good. Yeah, that is true. But I'm going to go over to regular Intel with SSD, and we're going to choose the $5 a month plan. So this is the cheapest plan that that DigitalOcean offers. It's still got SSD disks. It gives you 25 gigabytes worth of it. In fact, it gives you a 1 gigabyte of memory and 1 CPU, and it also gives you 1,000 gigabytes, so 1 terabyte of network transfer, which is extremely good and extremely beneficial. And we're going to be using a little bit of it today for those updates. On top of that, because the way that DigitalOcean works, if you exceed these limits, they just sort of rather shut you off from using the system rather than increasing the amount that they charge you. So that's a really nice thing too, is that you don't have to worry about suddenly getting auto upgraded to like a $10 a month plan when you didn't really want to. All right. I am not going to add any block storage for this. All of these extra add-ons will cost extra money. So just be aware in the case that you do want to do something like this, that's it's something to be aware of. Now, choosing where the server is going to live can actually be important. So if you know where your clients live, then choose the server that's near them. So right now it's got me selected with San Francisco 3. I can choose, there's only one from New York that I can choose from. The others are to over capacity right now. But obviously around the world, I can choose that too. This actually can be really, really important because this means that your server is close to where your clients are, which means that they're going to get less sort of network lag as they're communicating with it. And there can be a surprising amount of lag going from one side of the world to the other. Even if we're thinking that it's just electricity flowing through wires or even just light flying across fiber channels, there is a lag. VPC network, I'm going to leave this as default. This pretty much only is going to come into play if you're going to have multiple of these droplets together and you want them to connect to each other, and maybe only one connects out to the internet and the other two are sort of like private sitting behind it. So that's not something we're going to cover in this tutorial. I'm also not going to give it IPv6 support. It doesn't need it. I don't need any user data or monitoring for this. But we now have a choice: authentication. We have password, where we create a root password, or SSH keys. Well, in the previous videos, we've created some SSH keys. So let's go ahead and switch over to that. Although it's going to yell at me and saying, hey, I don't have an SSH key. So we're going to click on that and it's going to ask me, add my public SSH key. So this is super important. It needs to be the public SSH key. You do not want to give this your private key. So let's go over there and grab that really quickly. I actually have the tutorial key right here that I'm going to be using. So I'm just going to cat this file, just double checking that I've selected the one with .pub on its name, which just nicely tells me, hey, it is the public key. And I usually like double check, okay, I've pasted the one with pub in it. Okay, so here it is. Here's the public key. I'm going to copy this, paste you in there. And then I get the name to this key. And that's because I could potentially have many keys added on here. Maybe I want to have like one unique key per droplet, or I want multiple people helping me out, and I want to like make sure that they can only access the things they want to access. So I'm just going to say that this is a Brooks tutorial. I'm going to add the key. And so here it is. Finalize and create. How many of these droplets do I want to create at the exact same time? I only want one. And then I can also give it a tag. So I'm just going to give it the tutorial tag. These tags are only for me to be able to search through later and just like see all the resources that have that. So if I do spin up any of these other things with it, if I give it the same tag, then they'll all just sort of like show up together at the same time. Add it to a project. So I've created a project. Projects in DigitalOcean really just mean everything that's related to that shows up in one dashboard together. You don't actually need to have a project to use all of the features of DigitalOcean. It's really just an organizational way in the graphics, in the GUI. And then backups. So they always recommend backups. And to be honest, I would recommend backups too, if this is a system in which you're going to be storing data into the disk drive that is not recreated somewhere else. So generally speaking, VPSs like this, you want to consider the disk drive ephemeral. And what that means is it can go away at any time. Like if it gets destroyed, if something happens, you need to tear it down and build it back up again. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't care, because you can just recreate it based upon data you have elsewhere, like, for example, a database, or in our case, everything from GitHub. But if you were to be creating your own database, maybe, or you're storing files and you're creating like your own version of S3 or something like that, it might be a good idea to enable backups. It does cost $1 per month for that to happen. All right, let's go ahead and create a droplet. So these do not take very long to spin up, even from scratch the first time, only like a minute or two. And in fact, rebooting a VPS is extremely fast. It's to the point of like, I don't know, 10 seconds, 30 seconds or so. So having like, just like if you need to, hey, reboot, it works. Notice also we have this like name here, which is a little bit nasty. We can name that whatever we want. And in fact, I think I could have changed the name previously, which probably would have been nice, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so this is spun up. And what we can see here is the public IP address of this droplet. So this is what we're going to be able to use to get in. So let's go do that right now. We're going to copy this, head back over here, and I'm going to, now I've already added this key into my, my key. Oh, I forgot the name of it, but we're going to be able to use that to get in. So we're going to say SSH root, because there's only a root user right now, and then this IP address. So if I hit that, it's going to say, hey, I've never seen this host before. This is its fingerprint. Are you sure you want to continue connecting? I want to say yes. Now, if I just say why, that's not gonna work. It actually wants me to type yes to really make sure that I understand what I'm doing. Yes, I want to continue connecting to this computer. So later on, if some other system somehow gets this IP address, it's gonna yell bloody murder at me and say, hey, no, This is, even though it has the same IP address, it's a different system. I'm not going to let you connect into it. There's something going on here. All right, so I've connected in to this server here, and we get a little bit of information coming in. There's not really much like to see here, except 112 updates can be applied immediately, and 57 of those are standard security updates. So it's a really good idea for us to just update the system as soon as we get it set up. So we're going to use a command called apt, APT. If you're not familiar with Ubuntu, that's the package manager that comes with Ubuntu, or rather Debian, which is the parent of Ubuntu. Think of it like the App Store. So I'm going to just do apt update first to make sure that apt itself has the latest information. It knows everything that it needs to know. Generally speaking, you're always going to do an apt update first before any other command. And if you notice here, now it's saying, hey, 96 packages can be upgraded. That's slightly different than this. That's fine. That's like basically our big sort of like seeing what the difference is here. So I'm going to do apt full upgrade. Now each type of operating system is going to be different in how to do this, but in the Debian based, so Debian, Ubuntu, we're going to do this apt full upgrade, which is going to upgrade all the packages for us. I hit return. It's going to tell us, hey, this is everything that's going to be happened. Do you want that to happen? So I'm going to say yes, absolutely. And off it goes. It's going to start downloading all of these, unpacking and installing them. Now I'm using apt, and then some of you may be used to using a tool called apt-get. So apt-get. It's actually the same tool, but a different interface to it. So apt is great for interactivity. We get this nice little progress bar that's really human readable down here. Apt-get is great for shell scripting. So if you ever need to script any of these commands, or you just want to like automate some of this stuff, you're going to use apt-get. We're already 50% done with this. So it shouldn't take very much longer. Now, as soon as this is done, my guess is we're going to need to reboot the system. So I'm going to show you how, once we get to that point, to check to see if that is something that's necessary. Oftentimes when you first SSH into a system, it's going to have that message, and at the bottom of the message, it'll be like asterisk, asterisk, reboot required. Asterisk, asterisk. And that's just telling you, hey, we've installed something that requires a reboot. Linux is great in like not trying to force reboots on you. Most updates don't require them, but there's some security ones where it's an extremely good idea. That being said, you can install stuff and just keep on working and everything will be fine. What's going on is behind the scenes, all those files are just in memory. And so you're using the old version is the what's active, even though you installed a newer version. So rebooting is what activates that, really. Okay, so here is one of the many little things that just happens when we do an update here. We already have a file of this. So what is this? This is temp file 9b n98e configuration file. Oh, sshd config. So what I want to do is it notices that the version installed currently has been locally modified. So DigitalOcean modified this file for me. I do not want to now create a new one. So I'm going to keep the local version currently installed. And every time that it asks for that, that's what I'm going to do. It is possible to choose something here that just makes it impossible to actually SSH into your system or do anything with it. And if that happens, you can come back to the GUI. You might be able to come in here and like actually connect into it. There is a way to try to console in from the GUI, but if like nothing you do works, you may just need to well, just delete it and start over again, which you can do if you come down here to droplets. You can just destroy at this point and then recreate it again. If you do that, like if you just have it running for like, I don't know, just a couple minutes or even less than a day or so, you're charged on a monthly basis for this $5 a month. You're going to be charged hardly anything, if anything at all, for like a couple hours. All right, let's come back and see. All right, we're done. So everything has been updated here. Now, I want to check to see if the system needs to be updated at this point. So there is a file. So I want to cat/var, and then I think it is run. And there is a reboot required file here. If this file exists, then that means that we need to reboot. And then if I just take a look at what the contents of this file is, it's just really saying system restart required. That's what is going to be like appended onto that message of the day whenever you log in. But if this file exists, that's telling us, hey, it's time for us to reboot. Notice I didn't actually get a message here saying, hey, you need to reboot. Like, just do that. So we're going to do that right now. So I'm going to do there's a couple ways to reboot. So I can just say reboot as root, and that will instantaneously reboot us. And this is fine. In fact, this is what I'm going to do today for this. However, just to be aware that there's another way to reboot the system. There's actually several ways, but another sort of like really good way to do it, which is a shutdown -R for reboot, and then we can give it like +1. So how many minutes I want it to wait. So I can do, I want to wait maybe like 5 minutes, and then it's gonna reboot. And then I can even give a message like rebooting after updates. So you notice that it's been scheduled for 5 minutes from now. I'm going to do this shutdown -C that cancels the shutdown. So that way it won't happen in 5 minutes. You can do this with the +1 as a way of like, oh, if I'm SSH'd into the wrong system and I shut it down, which I have been guilty of in the past, and let's say you're a member of a team, or it's a critical system where lots of users are doing stuff on, that can disrupt service and be really, really bad, even though these reboots are really fast. So I'm gonna live dangerously. I'm just gonna do this reboot, which is instantly reboots the system, and it closed my connection. Now let's get a ping to this going. And it's already back up. So these reboots are super fast. So SSH back in here again. Oh no, it's not back up. We have to wait for like however many 30 seconds or so before we can get in. And let me double check that that is the right IP address. Do 147. Yeah, that is. Root at that. And usually I just have to wait for like anywhere between 30 seconds, a minute, a couple minutes for that reboot to finish, and it allows us back in. It's hanging, it's a little bit longer now. It's thinking about it. There it goes, and we're back in again. So that's how long a reboot takes. Like what? That was like a minute or so, maybe a minute and a half. It always feels longer than, especially if it's a critical server and like people are waiting on it. Or in this case, you're creating a video. And we're back up, and we have 0 updates that can be applied immediately. And so with this, what we've done is we've spun up a brand new VPS. It's sitting here waiting for us to use it. It's got nothing on it. And basically there's just a root user. So in the next episode, we're going to lock this down, or at least start locking it down so that we can be secure with it. Anyways, I'll see you in those videos. Thanks for watching. Bye.